Good evening. This is All India Radio. I am VC Pramod and with me is RS Raghu with the evening news. The headlines. Prime Minister Narendra Modi assures centre's full support to all states to fight against COVID-19. Requests states to be strict with hoarding and black marketing of essential medicines and injections. Prime Minister says awareness must be increased to alleviate panic purchasing. Indian Air Force intensifies its efforts to distribute oxygen across the country. Armed Forces Medical Services to import oxygen generation plants and containers from Germany. Centre to provide free food grains to poor people for upcoming 2 months under Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Ann Yojana. More than 13 crore 54 lakh COVID vaccine doses administered in the country so far. 3,32,730 new COVID-19 cases reported in the country in the last 24 hours. Campaigning for 7th phase of assembly elections in West Bengal concludes. Polling on Monday. And in IPL cricket, Punjab Kings take on Mumbai Indians in Chennai. As the number of COVID cases are on the rise again, we appeal to our listeners not to lower their guard, take all precautions and all those above 45 years to get vaccinated without any hesitation. Stay safe and protected by following these 3 simple steps. Wear a face mask, maintain 2 gaz ki duri for social distancing, focus on hand and face hygiene. And now the news in detail. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has assured centre's full support to all the states in the fight against COVID-19. Interacting with chief ministers of 10 states and 1 union territory in a meeting to assess the COVID situation, especially in areas reporting high number of COVID cases, Mr. Modi stressed that if all the states work together as one nation, there will not be any scarcity of resources. The Prime Minister added that the Union Health Ministry is also in touch with the states and is monitoring the situation closely and issuing necessary advices to them from time to time. On the issue of oxygen supply, Mr. Modi took note of the points raised by the states. He said there is a continuous effort to increase its production and supply. He also highlighted that all the concerned departments and ministries of the government are working together to address the situation, adding that the industrial oxygen in the country has also been diverted to meet immediate requirements. The Prime Minister urged the states to check hoarding and black marketing of oxygen and medicines. He said that every state should ensure free movement of oxygen tankers and make sure that they do not get stopped or stranded. Mr. Modi urged the states to set up a high-level coordination committee to carry oxygen to different hospitals of the state. Prime Minister Modi stated that the centre is working on all possible options to reduce travel time and turnaround time of oxygen tankers. In the same light, he highlighted the Oxygen Express initiative started by the Indian Railways and also cited the transportation of oxygen tankers by Indian Air Force carriers to reduce the time lag of transportation of medical oxygen in the country. The Prime Minister also stressed on the need to scale up testing and continue with the vaccination drive amid the emerging situation. Highlighting few recent incidents of hospital mishaps, Mr. Modi urged for adherence to strict safety protocols. Addressing concerns of few participants, he asked the administration to continuously make people aware not to indulge in panic buying.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi today interacted with leading oxygen manufacturers across the country through video conferencing. He said this time is not only to deal with the challenges but also to provide solutions in a very short time. During the meeting, Mr. Modi stressed on the need to maintain good coordination between the government and the oxygen producers. Prime Minister appreciated the oxygen producers for increasing their production in the last few weeks. He acknowledged the several steps taken to increase the production of liquid oxygen. He also thanked the industry for diverting industrial oxygen to meet medical requirements in the country. To improve the situation further, Mr. Modi spoke about utilizing the full potential of the industry to meet the demand of oxygen in the coming days. He noted that there is a need to increase the availability of oxygen cylinders as well as upgrade the logistic facilities for transportation of oxygen. He urged the industry to utilize tankers meant to transport other gases for oxygen supply. The Prime Minister said, keeping in mind the requirements of states pertaining to oxygen, government is working on effective use of railways and air force so that the tankers reach the production centre as soon as possible. Mr. Modi remarked that the government, states, industry, transporters and all the hospitals need to come together and work in unison. He said, the better the synergy and coordination, the easier it will be to be able to deal with this challenge. Indian Air Force has intensified its efforts to distribute oxygen across the country. The Air Force is airlifting oxygen containers, essential medicines and other medical equipment in fight against fresh surge in COVID-19 cases. The Indian Air Force transport aircraft and helicopters have been pressed into service for carrying out these tasks. C-17 and IL-76 aircraft of Indian Air Force have started airlifting big oxygen tankers from their places of use to the filling stations. This move will help in easing the supply of oxygen amid the growing demands. Defence Ministry said in the initial days of COVID-19 outbreak in 2020, the Indian Air Force ran several sorties to deliver medicines, medical and other essential supplies required to combat the coronavirus pandemic, as well as brought back stranded Indian nationals from abroad.
Armed Forces Medical Services AFMS has decided to import oxygen generation plants and containers from Germany amid shortage of oxygen in the hospitals during the second wave of COVID-19. In a statement, Defence Ministry said that 23 mobile oxygen generation plants are being airlifted from Germany, which will be deployed in AFMS hospitals catering to COVID patients. These oxygen generating plants are expected to arrive in India within a week. Each plant has a capacity to produce 40 litres of oxygen per minute and 2,400 litres an hour. At this rate, it can cater to 20 to 25 patients round the clock. The advantage of these plants is that they are easily portable. In another important decision, Ministry of Defence is also giving extension to short service commissioned doctors in AFMS till the 31st of December this year to tide over the current surge in medical services. The move will augment the strength of AFMS with 238 more doctors. Government today said that 13 crore 54 lakh 78,420 vaccine doses have been administered in the country till now. Health Ministry said the country has reported 3,32,730 new COVID-19 cases in the last 24 hours. With this, the total cases have reached 1 crore 62 lakh 63,695. The ministry said 1,93,279 people were discharged in the last 24 hours. Till now, 1 crore 36 lakh 48,159 persons have recovered from COVID-19. The recovery rate is now at 83.92%. Active cases in the country are 24 lakh 28,616. Health Ministry informed that 2,263 deaths were reported in the last 24 hours and the death toll due to the pandemic has reached 1,86,920.
Centre will provide free food grains to the poor people for the upcoming 2 months under Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Anna Yojana. Under this scheme, 5 kg per person per month food grains will be provided in May and June of this year. Government has decided to provide free food grains to nearly 80 crore beneficiaries covered under National Food Security Act NFSA. Consumer Affairs Ministry said the NFSA beneficiaries belonging to both Antyodaya Anna Yojana and Priority Householders categories will get the allocation over and above their regular monthly NFSA entitlement. Last year, the government had provided the benefits to the people during the COVID-19 pandemic. Prime Minister Narendra Modi had stressed that it is important that the poor people of the country have nutritional support when the country is facing the second wave of coronavirus. He said government will spend more than 26,000 crore on this initiative. Himachal Pradesh Chief Minister Jairam Thakur has thanked Prime Minister Narendra Modi for the decision to allocate 5 kg free food grain in May and June to poor people of the country under Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana. The Chief Minister said that the poor beneficiaries of the state would also be benefited under the scheme. He said that every possible assistance was being provided to every section of the society during COVID crisis under the leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi.
Union Health Minister Dr. Harshvardhan today chaired a high-level meeting to review the preparedness of the 4 central government hospitals in New Delhi for clinical management of the severe COVID-19 patients. These hospitals are Safdarjung Hospital, Dr. RML Hospital, Lady Hardinge Medical College and AIIMS, New Delhi. The Health Minister reviewed in detail the beds availability, including oxygen-supported and ICU ventilator beds. Various hospitals informed regarding the immediate steps being taken for augmenting the beds availability to cater to the immediate needs of COVID patients. Dr. Harshvardhan also reviewed the status of oxygen availability in the various central government hospitals and the steps being taken for timely augmenting the supply. He also directed to expedite installation of 5 pressure swing adsorption plants at all locations in Delhi hospitals. He directed all central government hospitals to be prepared with expansion plans for providing timely treatment to the COVID-19 patients in the days to come. A decision was also taken to install DRDO Tata Sons oxygen generation plants at AIIMS, NIC Jajjar, Safdarjung, LHMC and Dr. RML Hospital immediately. These plants will have a capacity to generate 1,000 litres of oxygen per minute. Arunachal Pradesh Cabinet has approved in place an order of 4 lakh Covishield vaccines and to allot an additional amount of 65 crore to vaccinate people between the age group of 18 to 44 in the state. This budget allocation will be above the budget allocation for the Health Department. The decision was taken at the Cabinet Review meeting on COVID-19 status and vaccination coverage in the state. The vaccine to the age group of 18 to 44 years will be provided free of cost to the people of the state. The Cabinet has directed the Health Department to facilitate registration of all people above 18 years in the state.
Assam Chief Minister Sarbananda Sonowal has clarified that the state government is not in favor of declaring lockdown in the state. He, however, urged all to follow COVID protocols. Talking to newspersons at Jorhat this evening, Mr. Sonowal appealed to citizens to follow all guidelines so that the situation to declare lockdown doesn't arise in Assam. Meanwhile, the Chief Minister held a review meeting on COVID situation at Nagaon districts with the officials of Nagaon, Hojai and Morigaon. The Chief Minister instructed the Deputy Commissioners to take special care in the vulnerable pockets. Kerala recorded its highest single-day surge today with 28,447 new COVID cases. Our Thiruvananthapuram correspondent reports that restrictions similar to lockdown will be imposed tomorrow and day after tomorrow in the state.
Only essential service will be permitted in coming 2 days. All people are urged to remain at home. Chief Minister Pinarayi Vijayan said that the COVID situation in the state is very serious. Extreme alert and strict abidance to COVID guidelines is compulsory. He assured again that the COVID vaccine will be free in the state and all possible measures will be taken to get everyone vaccinated at the earliest. An all-party meet will be held on Monday to take stock of the COVID situation in the state. Meanwhile, the test positivity rate in Kerala is at alarming 21.78%. 27 more deaths was confirmed due to COVID today, taking the death toll to 5,055. There are presently 1,78,983 active COVID cases in Kerala. Mayusha for AR News from Thiruvananthapuram.
In Odisha, the first weekend shutdown during the second wave of COVID-19 in all urban centres will come into force from tomorrow. The shutdown will remain effective from Saturday morning till 5 a.m. on Monday. More from our Bhubaneswar correspondent.
The Delhi night curfew, presently being imposed in late evening hours till the morning next day in all the urban centres of the state, will barrel into the weekend shutdown effective from tomorrow morning till Monday morning. However, considering citizens' representation, the state government has given 1 hour relaxation from 5 a.m. to 6 a.m. on Saturdays and Sundays for people to carry on their physical exercises like walking, jogging and cycling. Meanwhile, 6,215 new infections have been reported today from across the state, taking the total COVID-19 active caseload to about 40,000. On the other hand, the state government has decided to continue COVID-19 vaccination only from Monday to Friday every week, with no vaccination drive on weekends. Girish Chandradas, AIR News, Bhubaneswar.
In order to avoid any oxygen-related emergency across Mumbai's hospitals, the city's civic body has issued standard operating procedure that all wards, offices, hospitals and public health departments will have to strictly follow. More from our Mumbai correspondent.
The Municipal Corporation of Greater Mumbai has issued orders for compiling a list of private hospitals, the oxygen suppliers, and the types of cylinders available for refilling. As per the SOPs prepared under the guidance of Additional Municipal Commissioner P. Velrasu, hospitals will have to register the oxygen demand at least 24 hours in advance and inform the ward control rooms if the suppliers fail to provide the same within 16 hours. The control room must take up the issue with all the concerned suppliers and try to make the provision within the next 2 hours, failing which the same must be conveyed to the state's Food and Drug Administration Department. Earlier today, Maharashtra Chief Minister Uddhav Thackeray had said that the state's daily demand for oxygen is likely to shoot to 2,000 metric tons in the near future. In his virtual meeting with the Prime Minister, Mr. Thackeray said the centre must make provision for an additional 250 to 300 metric tons of oxygen for the state, besides 1,100 ventilators, 13,000 jumbo cylinders, and 70,000 vials of remdesivir daily to deal with the surging pandemic. Nisha Rani, AIR News, Mumbai.
Punjab Chief Minister Captain Amarendra Singh has announced that the state government would undertake vaccination in the age group of 18 to 45 years from the 1st of May, and it would be ensured that the vaccine would be given free of cost in all government healthcare facilities across the state. The Chief Minister was chairing a high-level meeting in Chandigarh to review the prevailing COVID-19 situation in the state. The Chief Minister was informed that the state had received 4 lakh more doses of Covishield vaccine from the centre on Thursday. These were likely to last for only 3 or more 4 days as per the pace of the ongoing vaccination drive. The Chief Minister asked the Health Department to vigorously pursue with the Union Government for ensuring requisite supply of more Covishield vaccines, besides getting requisite stock of Covaxin doses as well.
You are listening to the evening news on All India Radio. A reminder of the headlines before we move on. Prime Minister Narendra Modi assures centre's full support to all states for the fight against COVID-19. Requests states to be strict with hoarding and black marketing of essential medicines and injections. Prime Minister says awareness must be increased to alleviate panic purchasing. Indian Air Force intensifies its efforts to distribute oxygen across the country. Armed Forces Medical Services to import oxygen generation plants and containers from Germany. Centre to provide free food grains to poor people for upcoming 2 months under Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Anna Yojana. More than 13 crore 54 lakh COVID vaccine doses administered in the country so far. 3,32,730 new COVID-19 cases reported in the country in the last 24 hours. Campaigning for 7th phase of assembly elections in West Bengal concludes polling on Monday. And in IPL cricket, Punjab Kings take on Mumbai Indians in Chennai. For quick news updates round the clock, follow us on our Twitter handle at AIR News Alerts.
चलो मिलकर एक शुरुआत करें, चलो एक फैसला आज करें, मास्क नहीं तो टोकेंगे, कोरोना को रोकेंगे, चलो एक इरादा करते हैं, चलो कुछ वादा करते हैं, मास्क नहीं तो टोकेंगे, कोरोना को रोकेंगे.
Welcome back to the evening news. Chemicals and Fertilizers Minister Mansukh Mandavia has said that 25 new manufacturing sites for remdesivir's production have been approved since the 12th of this month. In a tweet, Mr. Mandavia said production capacity is now ramped up from 40 lakh vials per month to around 90 lakh vials per month. He said very soon 3 lakh vials per day will be produced. The government has clarified that spending of corporate social responsibility CSR funds for setting up makeshift hospitals and temporary COVID care facilities is an eligible CSR activity. This would be eligible CSR activity under items of Schedule 7 of the Companies Act 2013 relating to promotion of healthcare, including preventive healthcare and disaster management. This was in continuation to a circular issued by the Ministry of Corporate Affairs last year, wherein it was clarified that spending of CSR funds for COVID-19 is an eligible CSR activity.
Indian Railways is working to ensure that it is in the forefront of offering its services to the country. Chairman and CEO Railway Board Suneet Sharma today discussed the steps being undertaken by Railways during COVID times. He discussed how challenges have been overcome for transporting oxygen. For instance, types of tankers and wagons were selected. Routes were mapped keeping in mind that oxygen is cryogenic and sudden acceleration and deceleration had to be avoided. Over 3,800 COVID coaches are available. These have been kept ready, clean, and all facilities have been provided. These coaches are being placed where there is a demand. Only 3 months ahead of Olympics, Japan has declared a state of emergency for Tokyo, Osaka, Kyoto, and Hyogo from April 25th, after a recent surge in COVID-19 cases. Announcing the emergency till 11th of May, Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga said that the step is largely intended to be short and intensive. He said it is to stop people from traveling and spreading the virus during Japan's Golden Week holidays from late April through the first week of May. This is Japan's third state of emergency since the pandemic began and comes a month of an earlier emergency in the Tokyo area.
Department of Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade DPIIT has set up a control room to monitor the issues of internal trade, manufacturing, delivery and logistics of essential commodities during COVID pandemic. In the event of any manufacturing, transportation, distribution, wholesale or e-commerce companies facing difficulties in transportation and distribution of goods, information can be given at the telephone numbers 011 2306-2383 and 2306-2975. It can also be shared at email dpiit-controlroom@gov.in. The telephone numbers will remain functional from tomorrow at 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. The issues reported by various stakeholders through this control room will be taken up with the concerned state and union territory governments. In West Bengal, the high-profile electioneering campaign for the 7th phase of assembly elections concluded this evening on a subdued note. In view of the rising cases of COVID-19, the Election Commission prohibited any roadshows, padayatras and vehicle rallies in light of non-adherence to the COVID protocols by many political parties. In an order issued yesterday, the central poll body said that public meetings beyond the limit of 500 persons will not be allowed in the state. The new provisions will be in place till the conclusion of the polls. In the wake of COVID-19, all the prominent political parties decided not to hold big rallies and public meetings in West Bengal. Prime Minister and senior BJP leader Narendra Modi virtually addressed the voters in Malda, Murshidabad and Birbhum districts and the state capital Kolkata today. Chief Minister and NITC Chief Mamata Banerjee also cancelled all the scheduled public meetings and reached out to people virtually. The polling process is already over in respect of 223 out of the total 294 assembly seats in the earlier 6 phases.
Reserve Bank of India has allowed banks to pay dividends on equity shares, asking banks to proactively raise and conserve capital in the wake of the second wave of COVID. The RBI has told banks to restrict dividend to 50% of what regulations allow. The RBI has clarified that all banks shall ensure to meet the applicable minimum regulatory capital requirements after dividend payment. Last year, the central bank had banned banks from paying dividend after the COVID outbreak. In Bihar, at least 9 people were killed and 7 others missing after a private van with 18 of a family fell into River Ganga at Danapur near Patna. The bodies of 9 people, including 3 children and 3 women, were recovered. The tragedy occurred when a pickup van with the family from Nasirganj area of Danapur overturned from a makeshift iron bridge and fell into the river. The pickup van was pulled out from the river. Expressing grief over the tragic accident, Chief Minister Nitish Kumar announced an ex gratia of 4 lakh rupees to each of the next of the kin of the deceased.
India's processed food products exports has witnessed a growth of over 26% during April to February in the last financial year, despite challenges posed by the COVID-19 pandemic. Commerce Industry Ministry said that the total value of export of processed products was 43,798 crore rupees during this period. The major processed food products exported from India include pulses, processed vegetables, fruits and juices, groundnuts, cereals, preparations, milled products, alcoholic beverages and oil meals. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will launch the distribution of e-property cards under the Swamitwa scheme tomorrow at 12 noon. In a virtual event, over 4 lakh property owners will be given their e-property cards, which will also mark the rolling out of the Swamitwa scheme for implementation across the country. The Prime Minister will also confer the National Panchayat Awards 2021 on the occasion of National Panchayati Raj Day tomorrow. The award money ranging from 5 to 50 lakh will be directly transferred to the bank account of the panchayats concerned on real-time basis. Union Agriculture Minister Narendra Singh Tomar will also attend the event. Swamitwa, Survey of Villages and Mapping with Improvised Technology in Village Areas scheme was launched by Prime Minister on 24th April last year as a central sector scheme to promote a socio-economically empowered and self-reliant rural India.
Key indices at the domestic stock markets ended with slight losses while the rupee weakened marginally against the dollar. In the international market, global crude oil futures traded higher. A report.
Erasing all its early gains, the Sensex at the Bombay Stock Exchange lost 202 points or 0.4% to close at 47,878. Nifty at the National Stock Exchange slipped 65 points or 0.5% to close at 14,341. Global crude oil prices rose, buoyed by hopes that demand will recover as economic growth picked up in Europe and lockdowns eased. But prices were still set for a weekly loss as India recorded the world's highest daily total of COVID-19 infections. So, Brent crude oil futures rose 31 cents to trade at $65.71 a barrel. And at the foreign exchange market, rupee weakened by 6 paise to 75 rupees and 1 paise against the US dollar. Arjun Chaudhary for AIR News.
In IPL cricket, Mumbai Indians were 112 for 3 in 17.2 overs against Punjab Kings at M.A. Chidambaram Stadium in Chennai when reports last came in. Punjab Kings captain K.L. Rahul won the toss and chose to field first. Mumbai have won 2 out of 4 games so far, while Punjab are one of those at the bottom with 1 win in 4 games. Punjab has made a solitary change in the leg spinner Ravi Bishnoi, replacing another leg spinner M. Ashwin. The last time these two teams played in Dubai in October, it took 2 super overs to separate the sides, with Punjab side coming good at the second attempt. Now let's take a look at the weather forecast for tomorrow. In Jammu, the sky will be mainly clear. Minimum temperature will be around 15 degrees Celsius, while maximum will be around 29 degrees Celsius. Srinagar will also have mainly clear sky. The city will have minimum of 6 degrees Celsius temperature and maximum of 19 degrees Celsius. Leh will have partly cloudy sky with temperatures hovering between 0 degrees Celsius to 9 degrees. In Gilgit, minimum temperature will be around 9 degrees Celsius and maximum is expected to be around at 25 degrees. The region will experience partly cloudy sky. Muzaffarabad will have mainly clear sky. Minimum temperature will be around 10 degrees while the maximum may touch 26 degrees Celsius. National capital Delhi is expected to have mainly clear sky with minimum temperature at around 20 degrees Celsius. Maximum is expected to hover around 35 degrees. Mumbai will have partly cloudy sky. Minimum temperature will be around 26 degrees Celsius and maximum at around 35 degrees. Chennai will also have partly cloudy sky with minimum temperature touching 28 degrees Celsius and maximum expected at 36 degrees.
And now, before we end the bulletin, the headlines once again. Prime Minister Narendra Modi assures centre's full support to all states to fight against COVID-19. Requests states to be strict with hoarding and black marketing of essential medicines and injections. Prime Minister says awareness must be increased to alleviate panic purchasing. Indian Air Force intensifies its efforts to distribute oxygen across the country. Armed Forces Medical Services to import oxygen generation plants and containers from Germany. Centre to provide free food grains to poor people for upcoming 2 months under Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Anna Yojana. More than 13 crore 54 lakh COVID vaccine doses administered in the country so far. 3,32,730 new COVID-19 cases reported in the country in the last 24 hours. Campaigning for 7th phase of assembly elections in West Bengal concludes. Polling on Monday. And in IPL cricket, Punjab Kings take on Mumbai Indians in Chennai. And with that, we end the evening news. Good night.